Welcome, and all hunters are bastards. Don't give me that look. It's his literal name, Ahab. This is episode 409 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 30th of June, 2021, and featuring K-9 the Bounty Hunter, written by Ian McFadden, and starring John Leeson, Philippa Coulthard, Keegan Joyce, Daniel Weber, and Robert Maloney. I am Bill Sylvia, the writer in black, and thankfully my internet came back in time for me to be here, or I would have been sitting in a quiet room. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Greetings from UW-Madison Hospital.
Mad Matt Winchell,
Huzzah!
and Thomas Fireheart.
There were too many Terminator jokes. My brain couldn't settle on one.
How's everybody's week going?
Crappy.
Could be better, could be worse.
As stated, I am talking to you from the UW Hospital, where I have been since Sunday night. I went in because as Aaron was off at work, off grocery shopping, I started to put symptoms I'd been having together in my head, and I came up with the dangerous concept of blood clot. And I'm like, I better call the hospital. And sure enough, they brought me down. And they have taken a scan, and there is no blood clot. However, I am very full of fluid, which they are trying to get off me by instigating massive doses of Lasix, which is not fun, folks. Peeing 18 hours a day is not fun.
I could imagine that it is a problem, yes.
After they get all the fluid down, we can discuss what they can do to try to rebuild my body. But, we'll see what we can do when we get to it, and when they've got me down enough that they'll feel content that we can start the rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Till then, I'm stuck here.
So it sounds like it's going to be at least the rest of the week then.
Quite possibly, I don't know. Technically speaking, the estimated discharge on my little tablet said the 7th, but I don't think it's going to be that long.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while you're having all these health issues, I'm having wonderful work issues. Keeping things simple and vague because I don't want to give everything, like my location, my job, etc. away. My manager left. She found another job as far as I'm aware. And also, here's one for you guys. One of my coworkers was looking out for me and said, I believe when I was working Monday or something like that, because they don't get schedules done until like middle of the week for next week. We might be like short-staffed or something next week, and they're looking to fill in a lot of hours apparently. So if there's a particular day you want off, you better list it right now on the calendar. I immediately wrote down on Tuesday. Come to find out today, they try to list me on Tuesday on the schedule now all of a sudden.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, you literally let me have Tuesday be one of my regular few days off every week. Now you're suddenly trying to take it away from me. I'm sorry. There's got to be some better way of managing people in this store. It's kind of bonkers, and I'm kind of quickly getting really burnt out real fast. Because as it is, I'm already having... I was told starting off I was going to have like 10 hours a week. That immediately flew right out the window when they started having me listed at least from 8 until morning until 4 in the afternoon for at least 2, if not 3 days a week. And even further got thrown out when they kept asking me in for like nights and weekends to help out, which once in a while, sure, fine. But this can't be a constant thing. I do have other things, including family I would like to see. Thank you very much. That's the number one reason I haven't had a chance for a haircut, because I don't know what my schedule's gonna be.
It'd be nice if companies would at least have a conversation, be like, "Listen, we have a problem due to unexpected quitting or whatever else is happening. Here's what we want to do. Let's sit down and talk about it." But
Is there some
they're,
certain
they're,
days that you
they're
want to have off that we can schedule for you, so you can
but
get other things like your rest of your life
Mhm.
sorted out outside of
but
work? You know,
but if they communicate about it, that gives you the opportunity to say no. So they would rather just
they'd rather
go
just jump
forward.
on it and hope that
Yep.
you don't tell them no.
And
Yeah,
I'm not
we're
even
gonna.
pointing at that company. I'm saying that's
There's
standard management tactic nowadays.
Yeah,
mm,
we're gonna have to have you come into work this week. That would be great.
again, I don't
That
mind
that,
coming in a couple extra
that,
days. As a matter of fact, I don't even mind coming in Friday, because apparently they're
that
just kind of looking at me coming in Friday still.
that-
So
that's when I got in the habit. Once I said I can't come in a certain day, and they started still calling me that day to come in, I would just, oh no, yeah, my phone was on silent. I was in the other room. I saw it 6 hours later. Oh well.
oops. Oh, sorry, I was actually out of town, which is actually good to happen if they call me on certain days. I can't talk to you. I'm going through a tunnel right now. But yeah, that's just been absolute chaos. I'm like, really? Can we please not? Can there be at least a little bit of order to what's going on here? Oh, and apparently, there's already some whispers going around at work now too, of maybe upping me just from stock to actually being a cashier.
Oh.
Still the same wages, but it might hopefully maybe normalize my hours, and they might get
Right.
another stock person.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, anything else going on this week,
No,
or
Well,
was that all the big news?
I got
summer
the big
session one ended for my school, so I'm done with grading work for the summer. I still have research related things and such to do, but I'm pretty much done with hard deadlines for the summer. It's pretty much self-imposed and just trying to keep up with things deadlines from here on.
Okay. How about anything with you, Thomas?
Not really. I mean, thankfully at work, the two the primary two supervisors I interact with are like very much don't want to give me any reason to want to leave. So I'll likely have the days that we will be doing the podcast from now on free, because I was just like, okay, you know how I would usually not want to work during the day on Thursday? Yeah, now that's just Wednesday. And like, if you need me to work during the day Thursday, I can do that now, just not Wednesday anymore.
All right.
I do have one other thing to talk about, but that's on the list for later.
Okay.
Okay.
So, moving on tonight's show, we have birthdays. We have only Big Finish news. There was some filming stuff, but again, there was no real like physical reports that we could look at. Um, we have some geek talk. Then we have our episode summary, our final thoughts, and our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So, let's start out with birthdays. Starting on June 24th was the birthday of Yasmin Page, who played Maria Jackson in the Sarah Jane Adventures. She turned 30.
Good Lord, it feels like we've watched these people since they were kids.
We have watched them since they were kids.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Teenagers, at least, yeah.
on June 28th is the birthday of Daniel Weber, who plays Darius Pike in K-9. He turned 33.
This is the only month we would probably have thought to include that.
Well,
Well,
I think
the first
now
time
that
we
we're
would have thought
covering
to
it,
include it.
those are
Right.
going to be on my list. Yeah.
I don't think we've ever covered a K-9 actor before, except for, of course, John Layson.
Mm-hmm.
On the same day is the birthday of Lala Ward, who played the second Romana from 79 to 81. And finally, yesterday was the birthday of Maureen O'Brien, who played Vicky back in 64-65. She turned 78. So happy birthday to Yasmin, Daniel, Lala, and Maureen. Moving on through the news to Big Finish. New releases are Torchwood, 5 People You Kill in Middlesbrough, with Tracy Ann Oberman. This is the monthly Torchwood release for probably July at this point.
That would be the London crew then.
As far as I know, it's her by herself. So
I have not followed her story at all to know what she's done other than Army of Ghosts Doomsday in terms of where her character's plot goes.
yeah, we would have to have gotten the rest of the Torchwoods for those.
Mm-hmm.
Also coming out is Jago and Lightfoot Series 14. With Christopher Benjamin, Lisa Bowerman, Jamie Newell, and Duncan Wisby. It should be noted that instead of the full audio dramas, these are now audiobooks due to the death of the guy that played Henry Gordon Jago.
I was gonna say I'm not sure how they're going to go about these anymore.
Yeah, it's weird that they're to do Jago and Lightfoot without
Jago.
the whole duo.
But they apparently still had these. These were already written.
No.
They were ready to be recorded when he died.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was actually Lightfoot's actor. Let me just look up Trevor Baxter real quick.
I thought it was Jago.
Yes, it was Professor Lightfoot's actor who died.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got it backwards.
Yeah.
I thought Christopher Benjamin was Lightfoot.
It's definitely Trevor Baxter sounds like it would be the name of the person with the deeper voice, and Christopher Benjamin sounds like it would be the higher pitched voice, but so I definitely get where you're coming from with that.
I don't know. Okay. I think apparently we were just mixing up names. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. But anyways, yes, sadly Lightfoot is no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when I was like, Jago and Lightfoot without Lightfoot. How are they doing that? Then I realized that's why they're in audiobook format with narrators.
And that is all the news we have this week.
Mm-hmm.
So Geek Talk.
Yes, so the first thing we have on the list is Batwoman Season 2, which ended this week. And I'm glad that I saw a Facebook post announcing the season finale, because I cannot keep up with CW's breaks, because they have mid-season breaks, but then they also have we're bored of following linear time, so we're going to take 2 weeks off breaks, or they have holiday breaks. And I was like, come on, you're a 20-episode
just
season.
Sounds like a bad channel lately.
A 20-episode season doesn't need to take 9 months.
That's the thing.
And it's not even a COVID thing, because they do this all the time.
No, they're trying to stretch a 20-episode season to take the place of a 26-episode season. Because remember, back, 5, 10, 15 years ago, seasons were about 26 episodes. So they could air them all, and then air them all again in rerun before going into the new season.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut them back to start being 23, 22 episodes, and now they're down to 20 because they want multiples of 10, because that works better on streaming services.
Arg.
So yeah, Batwoman Season 2, I think I had given first impressions of this season. So what to basically say, The season does fully cover a handover from K-9 to Ryan. I'm forgetting her last name off the top of my head. But it basically, so yeah, I mentioned how they started the season presuming Kate to be dead. They do a fairly decent job of establishing one, that Kate is alive, 2, recasting her, 3, making it believable, and then 4, handing it off to the new actress. Due to the amount of time that Kate is not on screen, the actress was definitely similar enough that I was looking at her like, okay, I know that they're even saying on screen that she looks different now, but I can't actually, like, without looking her up, I couldn't tell you how her face was any different. I think she looked very close. The voice was different, but with the way they handled that in plot, that made perfect sense anyway. I'm not going to say how much she was on screen because that would spoil some of the plots that were going on. In general, the one thing, a benefit of this season was that they took with CW's emphasis on dealing with the social issues that the characters would really face. They really made it the BLM season. Hopefully not for cynical reasons, but even if it was for cynical reasons, I think they carried it off fairly well. I do think that they did a kind of poor job in the sense of the first season was really covering a lot of LGBTQ rights, a lot of lesbian issues. And the second season, the characters, they still had a few lesbian characters, but I feel like they kind of just left that part of the theming off. So it was kind of an abrupt switch over. I feel like they could have integrated those two issues a little bit more because I'm pretty sure there's still racism within the queer community. There's still homophobia within the black community. Those are sort of things they could have included. Maybe that's for season 3. I don't know. Just looking at it in terms of characters
or
and plot.
maybe they decided to take a step back and go, maybe we should work on making the show entertaining and successful before we start making political statements.
I mean, it's still a story, so you still have to include story elements.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There was, from what I can tell, there was a big shakeup with Batwoman, with creative control being switched to somebody else. Remember back with Doctor Who, when Russell T Davies wrote gay people, he wrote believable gay people. And when Stephen Moffat wrote gay people, it was a horrible sandwiching that was just in there because it's not his wheelhouse.
So the switching of the...
Oh, so you're saying you think the writers felt more equipped to handle handle racial and poverty topics than to continue handing those other themes
previous
from
topics,
season
yes.
1.
Yes.
With a believable characters,
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, there's a few arcs that they followed through to completion. A character that if I had been following newer Batman comics, I would have known of, a plot line covered in 2014 that actually included the Luke Fox character. So if I had recognized that name, I would have known where that plot was going. But I think they handled that fairly well. And then they also, and this kind of establishes this as really being an alternate universe and not an alternate future, because they really do an intro to Black Mask arc, to the point where he doesn't fully finish his origin story until the end of the season. Which, I mean, considering how many Batman characters had their origin in Arrow, I can't exactly be shocked. But that breaks the idea of this being an alternate future story. Overall, I would say if you enjoyed Arrow, if you enjoyed season 1 of Batwoman, you'll enjoy this. Unless you really hate anything that deals with racism or corrupt police. But Batman has always dealt with corrupt police, so I don't know what you would be expecting otherwise. And yeah, I think that's about it for that.
All right.
Okay.
Moving from that to video games.
Yes. So Tuesday, I finally finished Crystallis.
A week late.
Hmm?
A week late.
Yeah, well, I can explain some of that too. So, starting off with the general positives, the gameplay is very much the action RPG I remember for many good reasons. I do like the swordplay. I like the gathering of upgrades. Um, I do like the fact that there is still a monetary currency that you need to collect in order to upgrade your armor, at least until endgame, when you start collecting stuff that you just can't get in shops by the last couple levels. Um, and I do like the combat for the most part. There are, sadly, however, some issues I have with the game. Flying creatures in general, kill me now. Every flying creature, I swear, somehow, some way has its own weird, new, different pattern, and every time it pisses me off. just something about these flying creatures in this particular game in general. Mind you, this is also a retro game, so flying creatures in general have lots of issues of being annoying little pieces of work in retro games. But these guys in particular, oh lordy. I was literally almost to the point of constantly cussing by the time I got to the last level and they had flying robots. I'm like, oh, you just piss off. Don't even want it. I feel like there's some weirdness with hit detection once in a while. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the way my brain is thinking how it should hit and is missing something there. But it feels like the enemies do get a wider berth of what can actually hit me, as opposed to me needing to be pixel perfect on hitting them once in a while. I was fine with how we collected magic, although it was a bit dependent upon what all I was working on at the time. I think there's supposed to be a particular order, but you can easily mess up that order of how you get spells. Also didn't mind venturing around finding the gear. That was actually pretty straightforward for the most part. You just need to know when you can go collect it. And usually that's dictated by the extra items you find. Some of the puzzles some of the logic puzzles in particular in this game needed a little bit of explaining. Again, this is old Nintendo NES era, so I'm not surprised that they're a little bit up their own logic, if you will. It happens. I love Shadowgate, and I'll even tell you that game is up in its own weird little logic. And Crystalis has a little bit of that, but it's not as bad as it could be. Again, Shadowgate. Also, I felt the final boss fight was just a smidge short, but it was still cool. Yeah, otherwise I enjoyed most of my time with it, and just that there's a couple little frustrations here and there. Otherwise, it was a pretty good romp, and it's more or less how I remember it. So, Crystalis is still good in my opinion for the most part. It's a good retro game. One other thing I had an issue with is apparently you need to reach max level for like the last 3 boss fights. Just another weird aside that the game kind of forced in there. I'm like, I don't remember if that was a thing or not.
Usually I have no problem with that, but yeah, I usually seem to hit that wall pretty much.
Yeah, I had no problem until again, those last like 4 or 5 bosses. All of a sudden it's like, really? I need a level more? See, I will say this also too, is I'm one of those people that likes to play hard mode on Final Fantasy games. I will just keep going at my own pace. I don't care what my level is. We'll see if I can get through the boss fight. That being said,
definition of insanity, Matt.
Hey, I got through Final Fantasy 3 just fine, and I played even harder hard mode on Final Fantasy 3. My version of the game apparently was bugged to the point where the bosses could hit me twice, and that's a lot of damage.
I think I think that the American the 3D version is supposed to be that way.
Not the way I'm aware of it. I was told by people watching my stream, "Oh, the bosses aren't supposed to do that, as they're hitting me twice every time."
Well, the other playthrough I watched of the US version, of the 3D version, did that the entire way through.
Yeah, that's a bug. That's not supposed to happen.
Good to know.
Yeah, so if you can beat that while the bosses are doing that, you're playing the hardest version of the game, and if you can beat it, you're a badass.
Gotcha.
I'm a badass.
Yeah, Death Unites us at 4-8 Productions thought they did that just to make it harder for modern audiences.
I was told by my own viewers, wow, that's not supposed to happen. That's really nasty what they're doing to you. But hey, you're getting through it. Cool. Apparently, they made a harder version without knowing it, or purposely made it a harder version. I don't know. Either way, I still got through it. And that's how I play almost every Final Fantasy. I don't check levels. I just go in there and let's go smack something in the face. Dark Cloud, don't scare me. That's the name of the final boss in 3. Speaking of which, also, really quick aside while we're still on video game topic, seeing the pixel perfect stuff for Final Fantasy 1 through 6 coming out. Oh, I want it so bad. I'm waiting for my next paycheck, which will be this Friday.
I'm not a fan of most of what I'm seeing, and I can explain why too.
Oh,
the basic layout of the screen is still using the same sort of block format that every game on the NES needed to use, but then they put pixels and letters in that don't fit that sort of shape, that sort of format. So it just looks really out of place to me.
you're talking about like the one I shared?
I think so, yeah.
Because I
It
shared
was
the one with
Fantasy
the Find the
1, right?
Lich. Yeah.
Was it the Lich? Yeah. Oh, that was in our podcast. I thought it was in your channel.
No,
They're on our general chatting.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm not.
Yeah, that one. Like even if you look the numbers, I'm fine with the way the numbers are, but then the to the left and right of that, the text is a completely different shape. And the pixels are not as bad on the battle map. On the world map, I find them a little bit more jarring. Not the pixels, the character models. I find a little more jarring on the world map than I do on the battle screen.
See, the thing is, Bill, it's known fact that Final Fantasy, when you're on the world map, they're super chibi. I'm not bothered by that, and I'm also really not bothered by the extra shading and pixel quality of the text. I'm fine with that being a little bit upped because it's a little more easier to read. But keeping the pixel art, as far as I'm concerned, that was my main concern, and I'm perfectly fine with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, the fact that especially the fact that 3, we had never gotten a faithful
2D version,
a faithful version of in the United States. This will be the first time. That is definitely something to be hyped about. But I would have preferred it looked a little bit more like the original NES Famicom version than it does, personally.
I'm okay with it upgrading to almost like a 16-bit, like this image seems to be hinting at. I do prefer it looking like this as opposed to the PlayStation 1 version, which I was also fine with, but I'm like, this is a little more faithful to it. This is a little more faithful to what I grew up with as a kid.
I'm just annoyed that they made the menu screens the 16-bit blue instead of the old 8-bit black.
Even that I'm fine with. That's what they became by that point anyways, but with the art style they're going to. And who knows, maybe there's an option for that. Or heck, there might even be a mod for that too. Because they have not been, Square has not been beyond letting people make mods to artistically change the game to what they want it to look like. Hell, there might even be a mod to make it officially look like NES again.
Make Final Fantasy great again.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's like $70 to get all 6 games and free wallpapers if you pre-order.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Although I know the biggest thing is people would like it to actually be for a console, but
I don't care. I'm a PC boy these days. I'm gonna get my
that's
port.
the thing. As long as it's not mobile only, I don't think it's too bad. If it's only mobile, then it's just what the fuck. But
Yeah.
If it's being on PC is not too bad.
And that's also a thing for PC too. This is going to be a first for a couple of these games to actually be on PC as well. I don't think we've had one or two on PC yet. I'm pretty sure they've been all different. If you have been playing it on PC, it's been through emulators or something.
I thought they were available via Steam, which I'm currently not signed into, so I don't want to go down a
No,
rabbit
No, they
hole.
took
But
them. They took them down for these improved pixel versions.
oh,
actually,
but they
that
were
was
on
5
Steam.
and 6 they
Okay.
took down.
Mm.
5 and 6 they took down for these new versions.
Yeah,
1
I
and
don't
2 have never
remember
been
one
up.
being.
As far as I'm aware, 1 and 2 have never been on Steam. That's been actually a complaint of mine.
I thought maybe a port of the PS1 version was or something.
No.
I swear I saw something in the Steam store, but either way, that's yeah.
We're
I don't
side
want
topicing.
right. That's not our goal today.
Okay.
So stopwatch
So-
ready. Who is it?
I think it's actually you.
Yep.
Oh,
That was the last thing I said to you before we ended the call last week.
does anybody else have a stopwatch?
Give me a moment. All right, stopwatch is ready.
All
Are
right.
you ready to go, Matt?
Sure.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So we start off the episode where they're trying to jar more of K-9's memory from him, but he seems to remember a few moments before the teleportation, but he can't seem to remember everything. Apparently, he was scanning someone and detecting who they were before something happens. His memory blanks. They decide that maybe taking K9 for a walk will actually help his systems cycle themselves, and maybe he'll be able to unlock more of his background memory as he's having issues seeing it all. And in the midst of this, they come across the asshole guy who has been trying to chase down some of the main characters, and they catch him faking a attempt to terrorize people with an explosive bomb. He and K9 decide to intercept after sidetracking his attention to locals who are getting annoyed that they aren't doing something to help the kids who are trapped on the I guess the Ferris wheel, if you will. And
It's supposed to be the London Eye, but it's not big enough.
yeah, it's
No, it's
also
not.
quite right. There's a couple of things not quite right about it to be the London Eye. But they decide to investigate. K9 figures out that the bomb is not even a dangerous bomb. It can't even do any kind of real damage. So he very easily diffuses it, and they stop the hyperspeed of the fake London Eye. And basically outdo the police guards by literally tossing the fake bomb into its arms and then running away. And and they were also on camera, so they can't just arrest the kid who literally stopped and saved all the local civilians. But as this is all going on, a man comes through the teleporter. Again, why is this thing not fenced off? And he begins to make threats at the doctor. The doctor does gets figured out for at least knowing where K9 is, as this bounty hunter seems to be after K9 for a possible murder. But he is found to not be lying when he says that he doesn't know where K9 is, and the man seeks out the other people, seeing some TV going on, and tries to find out where K9 is, with the hopes of helping with help from those people. K9 during all this, while trying to find a place to hide in the sewers, uncodes some more of his memory, but not all of it still. But he does see the remains of the man he's being accused of killing, and is apparently been atomized, and he decides to turn himself in. As he's getting pulled in, the kids are trying to stop the bounty hunter, and the mother gets involved with trying to stop this guy, but shows up too late to really do anything. In the midst of K9 being dragged in, the device being used to drag him in is a cold device, which is allowing his processors to work a little bit better. And he finally finishes the full memory, to which we find out that the turtle people and this bounty hunter were actually the ones that were involved with the disintegration of the man he's being accused of killing. And with that evidence now situated, K9 was able to resist, and using hot tea, they were able to cut the below zero cord that was pulling him in and launched the guy back to his present time, but also in the present time, place, and space, which means he's out in the middle of nowhere. And that more or less ends the episode.
Okay, Matt. So you did
Side
that.
note:
that
the
in-
doctor actually is not present in the show.
The scientist,
Mhm.
the professor, or whatever you want to call him.
professor, the scientist, yeah, whatever you want to call him.
Anyway, Matt, you did that in 3 minutes, 32 seconds.
Roughly the same time here. I will say this episode felt longer than some of the other ones, but in a good way.
Okay, I was gonna say, in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. This felt like they got a lot more done.
All
Mhm.
right. Well, you might have saved that because next up was what you liked about the episode, and Matt, you are first.
No, you know what?
Of course, Matt is first.
Sure, I'll just continue with it. I liked how long this felt. It felt like that we actually had a longer episode for whatever reason, and we got a lot of stuff done. We've finally gotten some more information on K-9 and what he was up to just before the teleportation. We finally we got a new villain who might come back, but maybe not, because he might have been just shot into the void. We don't know. The void of space, that is. And we do have at least a little bit of background of some of the things that we're involved with, and hopefully we might start to unlock more of what K-9 was up to before the whole teleportation thing happened. Maybe even get some more new bad guys. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, it just the general pace of it felt longer, but it felt like a good long. Like we got some ground covered for once, and even gave some time for the other characters to grow a little bit.
All right, Bill, how about you?
So mine is a little similar to Matt's, but I think it's just different enough to pass. And that is that I'm glad that they're not treating K9 as if he suddenly popped into existence in episode 1. Obviously they knew he already existed, but he was like, "Oh, I have amnesia, this and that." And I really thought that was going to be the end of it. They're going to be like, "Well, we don't have the rights to anything that happened before he got amnesia. So we're just going to kind of go forward from here with as if he was just born." And that's not the case. They're actually acknowledging, no, we at least the fact that he was doing stuff before he showed up in episode 1. So that's kind of nice that they're acknowledging some sort of continuity. Well,
Some sort
continuity,
of vague
but
continuity that takes place before his teleportation.
Not in the pedantic meaning of continuity, but in the literal. There's a continuity of events. He's actually existing before and after things happen.
There's
So
a
that's
chain of
nice.
events, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Thomas.
I guess I just like that we got more of the department, who at least for the first couple of episodes have been there but not really done much, and now we've got
Oh, they fake terrorist attacks.
Yeah, and generally that guy coming back and getting a bit more of a presence and getting a bit more of the back and forth between him and Georgie's mum.
Okay, so up to me. I guess I can say this is the first episode, if you can call this a like, where what's his name? Darius did not annoy the hell out of me.
He had one annoying bit, but yeah, he wasn't a complete and total little prick.
He's actually starting to become a team player rather than Captain Asshat.
Which, I mean, I'd hope so, given where
we're now that we're like 4 episodes in, and he has to be there.
And he's still trying to score with the Hermione, but
yeah.
Ron, stop.
All right, so what did we dislike? And Matt, you are first.
What disliked? Um. Mm, I will say that the on-set effects, may they be hit or miss once in a while, depending upon how much you like certain things. But man, those digital effects are still not holding up. We have still JPEG image of thing floating going through space. It's a little bit better than last week's, but it's still pretty when you see the obvious floating thing that's not there.
All right. Bill?
So I'm trying to find the name of the guy that I want to mention. Yes, Drake. I feel like they just make Drake out to be a little too incompetent here. I get the impression he's supposed to be, like the big bad of the season, at least at this stage. Maybe he's the intermediary bad. We don't know, but
I was thinking intermediate, yeah.
he instead is just coming off as the bumbling fool that they kind of trip over in the first scene, or the first sequence of events of scenes anyway, and kind of move on. And it's just like, so I think we're supposed to take him seriously, but it's really hard to after that because
He not only fumbles at making himself look good, he then fumbles again when an alien takes advantage of them. Who would have thought an alien bounty hunter backed out on his deal with you?
And it's like even when he gives that speech in the beginning, it was like, so you're supposed to be like the government person, like showing you have the situation under control, and you do that by making cartoon sound effects of explosions while talking about people's kids.
Yeah. And while showing that you literally have nothing under control, and if you did have everything under control, this is a bad sign of it.
And then immediately his fake bomb is found, and it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
So hopefully they replace him with a bigger villain in the next few episodes. Otherwise,
actually, they kind of seem to be hinting at a bigger villain because there seems to be a head of departments.
I mean, there's got to be a bigger villain by the end of the season, but I hope whoever that is comes about sooner rather than later. At the rate,
like I said, they seem
Drake
to be
is
hinting
going.
at something because they showed a shadowy figure through fogged glass, just giving them orders really quick and then going back again. So there's got to be a bigger bad. Anyway.
All right, so that was Bill's.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thomas.
It's kind of funny. This is probably the first one so far where it's been a bit harder to pick out an individual thing.
I'll actually agree to that. It was a little bit harder.
I guess for lack of anything else, and that I probably won't have another chance to bring it up, I do love how they're still trying to push this as London, but I know exactly where that fucking Ferris wheel is. I have probably been to that Ferris wheel. I have probably been on that Ferris wheel. I guarantee.
Well, you that's only because you're freaking down there in Oz. I mean,
it's funny. It's like they couldn't afford the rights to the London skyline. They couldn't afford the rights to commonly photographed public figures or landmarks.
Or landmarks, yeah.
I'm looking at that and those like that's supposed to be the London Eye. No.
Yeah.
Nope, there's something fishy about this. This is not quite right.
That'll be the one at friggin' South Bank in Brisbane. That's near a little lagoon setup that people can swim in. So it's I don't know. It's just really funny to me that it's I know exactly where that is. It's so funny to be able to recognize something when they're trying to pass it off as something else.
All right, so what about my least favorite thing? Matt didn't like the visual special effects. I had an issue with a few of the prop effects. in particular K-9. There's a few scenes where the K-9 unit is in the scene, supposed to be, with the characters, yet it's obvious that nobody bothered to turn the prop on. The head is rolled to one side, one ear's in one really awkward position, and it's just sitting there.
Oh, you know what?
Is that the scene when they were like, "Oh, he's defragging"?
No,
No,
that was
no,
the
his
scene
ears were
prior
actually
to that.
moving during that.
Yeah, this was when they were on their way to the sewer lair.
Oh, that's worse. Yeah.
You know what? I wonder if that was actually the model in as a stand-in, and they thought they were going to digital over it,
And they didn't.
and they didn't. And they foobarred. Oh,
Digital over it in this economy.
Yeah, generally that screams to me of like the issue old Who would have, where it's like, well, fuck, we don't have
somebody
enough
didn't talk
money
to the
for
visual
another
effects
take.
artists about these particular scenes. Yeah,
Yeah, there is something a little old hooey about some of this, isn't it?
a little bit.
Mm.
And normally I'd say something about normally I wouldn't be detracting from that, but this is 2010.
Yeah, there is a higher standard to be held here, and it's kind of dropping the ball once in a while.
Well, I think this show is not up to a higher standard.
All right, so favorite scene.
Favorite scene. No, what? Just proving K-9 is the good boy we always believe him to be. Even when he suddenly thinks he's turned to a bad guy, he literally just goes off to turn himself in.
Okay.
It just rings true of what K-9 is like, because his logic is he's
Right.
always trying to do good, and the fact that he suddenly thinks he's himself to be a villain, he just immediately goes, "Yep, time to turn myself in. Not even going to fight it, turning myself in. Bye bye. Not even going to get anyone else involved in this because I don't want to put them in trouble too. I'm just going to go."
All right, Bill.
So mine is going to be the one where they actually find him innocent. Just it was so well built up, as well as, and it was also well executed. I can buy well enough the techno foolery around using a cold leash to turn him into a superconductor. I don't know if I buy it, but I buy it well enough for the scene. And it
It has
didn't break continuity of everything else, and it worked out well.
All right, Thomas.
I'm gonna go with the ending, just because to me it was like, wow, that's actually a neat idea. I don't know if it feels like Doctor Who has to have exploited this at some point, but it was just so fun that they were like, well, he went through time but not space. So
I think they have done
he's in
that,
this exact
or at least something
yeah.
similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, well, he's he's basically going to be in the vacuum of space because the Earth isn't there, and like, what was it, like 50,000 years or whatever?
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't think they ever did bring that up in Doctor Who, but I knew that from my own school, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I think they've done something similar, not exactly the same, but they have done sometimes something similar.
They've talked about things like that, but it's usually like hand waved away as the TARDIS is advanced enough to track that shit.
Yeah, kind of a deal.
And it's always iffy in the sense of it depends on how you define space. Because relativistic physics is basically space is warping around the gravity well of the Earth anyway. But
yeah, there's a whole bunch of math that you could do on this.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Exactly.
So I am going to go for my favorite scene, being the scene between Bill's and Thomas's, and that is the fact that the day is saved by a freaking cup of tea.
The most British ending ever.
Yes, it is.
And it's kind of payoff because he'd been trying to make other people tea the whole episode.
Yes.
Can I add an extended extra favorite part of the last scene, by the way? I've been saying since we started watching the show that the opening gives me Lost in Space vibes, and then they actually say Lost in Space this episode at the ending. I think some of the writers might have been aware.
Okay. So now we go to least favorite scene.
Oh, least favorite. Oh, you know what? Yeah, this one bothered me a bit. I assumed there must have been some sort of issue or something, maybe. It just suddenly felt like really phoned in that suddenly bad guy suit suddenly calls up Georgie's mom and just goes, "Oh yeah, I was backstabbed in the sewer. Yeah, your daughter's still down there chasing this bounty hunter who's taking in K-9 to the teleporter or whatever." It just
I
suddenly
I
felt
didn't
like
realize
really
he called her. I
shoehorned
thought
in,
she called
phoned
him.
in.
I didn't think he called her. I thought she called him.
I don't care who called who. It just felt really phoned in, is what I'm saying. It felt like
Yeah.
it felt like that scene in the original Friday the 13th where you just get images of people not talking, but you hear voices saying they're going to go do things, which was we forgot to film something problem from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's definitely like, wait,
It
did you want
really
us to
smacks of
show
the
that?
same
We
issue.
don't
We
have
forgot
the
to film
yeah.
this bit where he somehow makes
Yeah.
contact with her, so we're just gonna
Mm.
film it from her scene because we can't get the guy in and we can only get like a quick voice
Mm.
thing from him. Okay, good,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Or even just a matter of like, well, crap, we don't have the budget to actually show all that happening, so let's
That
just say it
too.
happened.
Yeah, we're just gonna say it happened really quickly off
I
screen.
don't think that bothered me as much as it bothered you, Matt.
It bothered me a lot because
Because in my brain, it filed it under the same as, so that's your field report, huh? You broke into the house and shot him 36 times. 37.
No, it felt really awkward to me that they suddenly broke from the middle of an action scene. It does almost feel like they ran out of budget. They broke from an action sequence with effects to, oh yes, they're heading there right now. What? That was suddenly a jump.
Okay.
Let's go there now through the miracle of television.
Bill.
So I'm gonna have to go with the scene of Georgie's mother basically coming in and being like, "You're part of the government now," and it's partially like I still don't quite understand. Like I thought she was supposed to be antagonistic to the team, and now she's
She
like,
kind of
"Oh,
was, but now she kind of
now-
isn't. It's weird.
yeah." Now she's like, "I'm doming you," and I'm just like, it's whiplash, and it's like,
It's supposed to be that she's had this little character reversal arc, but they haven't explained it well.
Yeah, they haven't really explained her kind of character reversal.
And they explained that by her coming in and planting metaphorically planting the flag of England in the professor's kitchen.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah. And it's also just kind of weird because we're only in episode 4. You think that would be something for like maybe halfway through or something?
Right.
Yeah, I just kind of felt like that was also shoehorned in this episode too at the very last minute.
Especially since just last episode, she didn't seem to know her daughter was working with them and was just like, oh yeah, she must be at home doing her homework. And that seemed to be building up to something. And now it's just like, well, yeah, she's part of this team now. Oh, well.
That was supposed to be establishing that reversal arc. Like I said, it wasn't done very well.
Yeah.
Anyway, Thomas.
I mean, Matt sort of took mine, but I did have a backup already. And it's not really the scene itself so much as the effect is like, okay, they were allowed to shoot at that location, but then when you show the guy on screen doing his little TV broadcast, it's very clearly him standing in front of a green screen with like a shot of the Ferris wheel in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you couldn't. I mean, like to a point, they'd have to cheat it somewhat to make the Ferris wheel look like it's going way faster, but it's still like you couldn't just have him like off to the side, but still in the same location. It's like it's more of a nitpick just because it's a matter of like, yeah, they had to be able to fuck with it to make the Ferris wheel be going so fast, but still, it's kind of like a very jarring that it's obviously him in front of a green screen for that shot.
So I think my least favorite scene is, yes, so we've agreed to do this. Well, I will continue doing what I've been doing. And she didn't realize that meant that would mean getting, trying to get a hold of K-9 at all costs. I'm sorry, that was a gullibility check that she failed. It's just that just hit me as, come on, you're not that stupid, lady.
Yeah.
That argument should have continued longer, but it didn't.
She's precisely as stupid as the scene needs her to be at any given moment.
Kind of seems
Plot
that way
stupidity.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So final thoughts, Matt.
Final thoughts. I think this is starting to catch a little bit of ground, but it's still kind of stumbling a bit. It needs a little more warming up, and maybe it'll be ready.
All right. Anything else?
The character K-9 is still the best character. The kids are starting to warm up a little bit. The professor is usually pretty fun. That about covers it. And yeah, this is probably one of the least bad effects, but there's still some hokiness.
Okay. Bill.
So yeah, I definitely agree that this episode was more solid than the others. It definitely had a more complete plot. It had K-9 be active in a story that really centered around him, which is good. Because if he's going to be the main character, then there should be stories that really center around his decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first one that really does that. The supporting cast were decent. With the, as we've mentioned, the big exception being George's mother. Darius kind of didn't have much to do in this episode either, but there's not. Yeah, I mean, it's short episodes. There doesn't have to be something for everybody in every episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was the best executed episode of K-9 we've seen thus far.
All right, Thomas.
Yeah, this is definitely the best episode so far. For me as well. Like, yeah, there's still growing pains, but this is definitely one like, okay, cool. This does look like the further this is going, the better that the episodes are getting. So it's hoping that that continues and it's not a thing of like, oh, it's just a string of good luck that we that at the start it just sort of gets progressively better, and hopefully there isn't a drop off point later. Also kind of like how this essentially kind of closed. It's kind of fitting that we're that we're like taking a break from Kanan after this, because we've essentially closed the loop with the Jixen as well, because there's that little thing of it turns out, oh yeah, the Jixen were involved too. So yay, that's that little thing wrapped up. And I like the design of the bounty hunter as well. Didn't get to bring that up before, but
yeah,
I mean,
he was. Yeah, I did briefly mention that I like most of the onset effects.
Yeah, like the accent he was going for was a bit okay. That's why I almost wanted to make a Terminator joke. When it's like, could have just used his natural accent and it would have been fine, but okay.
Your clothes, give them to me now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they continue to have the other guy from the department continue to just be like, haha, I'm just out for whatever. And the mum getting more, like, whether she'll get more sympathetic or if there's going to be like a point where she turns on them or something. Which I could almost see that happening, but I guess it depends. Yeah, I just kind of hope they, like, given this is like a 26 episode season, I would hope that the further along we go, the more that they develop the department, so they're not just generic evil
Generic
organization
jackbooted
sort of
goons.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a lot more interested now to see where this goes than I was when we started.
Okay. And as for me, yeah, I do think that this has been developed a little better than its predecessors. It looks like they're starting to find. There's going to be a little bit of forward motion, I know. And it's good to see the beginning of that with this episode. Acting is decent for the actors we have. Directing was okay. The special and visual practical effects still have some teething issues that they need to iron out. So, yeah, all in all, improvement, but nowhere near perfect. All right, let's rate this.
Oh
And
gosh,
Matt,
that's right. I'm
you
gonna be
are
up first. I believe last time I said I was borderline still staying at 3.5. I think this finally, plot-wise and character-wise, has pushed it enough to finally just barely reach that 4.
okay.
I agree. 4.0 as well.
4 from Bill. Thomas,
Yeah.
you've been giving
This
stuff a 3.0?
Yeah, it was a thing where I was like, is it enough to justify 4 or only half? And honestly, yeah, despite the fact that there are still some teething troubles, I would say this was good enough compared to the previous episodes, and I'm willing to give it a 4.
All right. Well, I'll make it unanimous. I thought the last one was a step up to a 3.5. This is definitely another step up, but it's not yet at perfection.
Come on, K-9,
I
we're
thought
rooting for
if we
you.
were-
Get that 4.
Do not.
I thought if
almost
we were
gave it 40.
lucky, I thought if we were lucky, we would average a 3.7 and keep going up incrementally. But we went from 3.1 to 3.4 to 4.0.
Yes, and we averaged a 4, which would put this
Keep going up, K-9. Come on, you can do it.
at 191 out of 392 things reviewed.
The top half.
Yeah.
It is on par with Big Finish, Trial of the Valeyard, The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, Revenge of the Slovene. Any more in there? Class, Now You Know, from Big Finish. First Doctor Adventure, The Great White Hurricane. Sixth Doctor, Stage Fright. Class, Co-Owner of a Lonely Heart, Bravish Heart. Big Finish, Destiny the Doctor, Hunters of Earth, and Big Finish, Light at the End. It is better than... Let's see if there's anything better. 10th Doctor Adventures, Technophobia. Big Finish, Jago and Lightfoot Revival, Acts 1 and 2. Big Finish, The Condemned, which was a monthly. And then it's not as good as Sixth Doctor Adventure, The Brink of Death. Big Finish, The Chaos Pool, Torchwood, End of Days. And then Big Finish, Susan's War, Part 3. So there you have it. Once again, 191 of 392 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, so please let us know in the chat. What did you think of this episode? Do you like it? Do you like it more than a 4? Do you think that was too high? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to keep getting our updates, our exports to YouTube, and follow us on Twitch to keep getting our new streams.
All right, and next time, we will be adjusting to changes in our lifestyles, and we'll be coming to you on a different day of the week. We will be, instead of Wednesdays, airing a day before on Tuesday, July 6th. And with this change comes another change. We wave goodbye to K-9 and head back to modern Doctor Who to finish the first of the two last remaining episodes, or last remaining stories, both of which in our infamous Series 6. Yes, it's The Curse of the Black Spot, written by Steve Thompson and starring Matt Smith, Karen Gillian, and Arthur Darvill. We will see you next week.
See you all
See you
Tuesday.
then.